With all that's going on right now, that's affecting each and every one of us, how are you actually taking care of yourself? Have you got a plan and a schedule that you have in place on a day-to-day basis? And if you do you know what practices actually work, or are you just going through the motions and not really understanding what's helping and what's not? We're so busy choosing sides and blaming other people that we forget to put ourselves first. And in order to help others, which I know some of you want to, we have to begin to look after our own physical and mental well-being. It's crucial. Being strong and leading by example is what truly can help people. So today I'm going to share with you my top 5 self-care practices that I do daily. And specifically, I'm going to share with you how they make me feel and why I do them on a day-to-day basis, to give you connection of what to look for rather than going through the motions and just not having awareness on what's working or what's not. Let's discuss. Welcome back to the Conscious Life podcast and episode 17. Thank you for listening on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes. If you keep coming back and you value this content and it's really helping you, I'd really appreciate if you can leave a comment below or in the descriptions. It would just help more and more people access this content. And as you know, the Conscious Life Collective, we help individuals and organizations reach and harness their full potential. Simply being because we know the world is better when you're living your most connected and authentic expression. And at the center of that, the start of that, is self-care. And you know our 5-stage path to personal mastery. Stage 1 is all about self-care, introducing self-care practices. And so I'm going to dive in straight away with my top 5 self-care practices that I do on a day-to-day basis. And so my first one is that I wake up early, around sort of between 5 and 5:30 in the morning. You may be saying that, oh, that's crazy, I can't do that, that's too early. But the reason Anna and I do that, the main reason is because our daughter, 3-year-old, is going to wake up around 7:15. And so to get these practices in, our main ones, we have to get up before her, otherwise it's just not going to happen and it'll eat into our work day. So we wake up at 5 to 5:30 a.m. Immediately, we'll drink a glass of water to hydrate. All of us dehydrate overnight, and so to put back in some fluid that we've lost is crucial. You know what happens when you're foggy-headed, you can't get clear, you haven't got any clarity. Most likely it's due to dehydration. And so keeping your body hydrated is crucial. And then we sit down to meditate. And there are so many different traditions that you could assign yourself to. But the one that has really resonated with me is one that I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the link's below. And so to start with, I bring my awareness on the different energy centers throughout my body. So our first energy center is the pelvic floor. Then it's belly button. Then it's the solar plexus. That's the third. The fourth is by the heart. The fifth is the throat. 6th, 7th, and 8th, depending on what tradition you follow. There are either 7 or 8 of these energy centers. And so what does that do for me? Why do I do that? When I'm out of balance in my centers, and typically the Western culture, where most of us are out of balance in our first 3. And the first 3 centers are responsible for safety, how safe we feel, our sexuality, our drive, kind of our sense of being in this world. And so for me, commonly I'm blocked in my third, my solar plexus, or my second. And so bringing awareness, how does that show up? So I'll go into that one first. That shows up by poor digestion, by a knot in my stomach, the pit in my stomach. My body I feel it. I feel a block in these centers now. And so by bringing awareness to those centers and setting intention for clarity, for balance, for coherence, I can actively create balance within those centers, help loosen off any blockages that they're in there. And then that helps me feel free in my body. And so I work my way up. I do the first one, then I move to the second one. After the second one, I connect the second and first together. I move to the third one. I finish that and I connect my first 2 and 3 up. So I go all the way through my body until I've reached my crown. And then once I've finished that, I then enter into a breath practice. And so this is what I've learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'll breathe out through my nose, empty of air. I'll then contract my pelvic floor and then breathe in through my nose, slowly, until my awareness has reached my head and I'm full of air. I'll then hold my breath, contract my pelvic floor, and squeeze and lift from my base all the way through my body. And that's a skill. You have to be able to learn it. I've learned how to do that over time, but it's not hard to do. And what that gives me is I do this daily around 4 to 5 times in the morning after my meditation. It gives me an incredible rush of blissful experiences. It helps me liberate stored energy and emotions. And so our body is a library of everything that we've been through. Our memories are not cognitive. It's all with every part of us, in every cell, our fascia. And so we're governed by our experiences. We perceive life, our filters are from what we experience. So if we've been through something painful, we'll act in a way to avoid that pain. And so this process of liberating stored energy is to free yourself, to free myself of old patterns and old ways of doing things. And I feel it. So once I've done it, I let go, I lean forward because I'm kneeling down, and I feel this rush of bliss, a very, very blissful experience. Lasts for maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. My body's twitching. I feel a release. I'm having strange memories. And then I'm a very, very, very calm state. And I'll sit back up, get composed, and then I'll do it again. 3 to 5 times. And that has been one of the most profound practices that I do on a day-to-day basis. Once I've finished that, I then go into a 15-minute yoga practice. This is not my main exercise for the day, but it's my bare minimum of the day if I've got a really busy day and I won't have time to exercise. It allows me to connect to my body. It's really, really basic. I do the same thing every morning, and it helps me teach me how am I on this day? What's going on with me? Am I stiff? Am I loose? Do I feel good? Do I not feel too good? It just connects me to my body. So twisting and forward bending and working through my hips, working through my extension in my back, kind of really simple movements, but it just wakes my body up. It's like a supercharged coffee. I love coffee, but doing this, the breath and the movement is so much more effective than coffee. I'll then journal. So I'll write my intentions for the day. I'll write some affirmations and I'll speak some affirmations, and I'll do a gratitude practice. That takes me maybe 5 minutes. So by the time I get to 7 o'clock, I've done all of that. That's 7 o'clock in the morning, it's all done. Or 7:15, depending if I get up a little bit later. The morning starts, my daughter's up, we get her breakfast, we get her ready for nursery, and then if it's my day to take her to school, even if it's not, I'll then either walk her to nursery, or I'll walk to the beach. And so if I walk her to nursery, I'll then, once I've dropped her off, I'll begin a breath practice. And if I haven't taken her to nursery, I'll do this practice straight away. And it's a carbon dioxide tolerance boosting practice. And so you've heard me talk about breath and CO2 before, but simply being, if we can improve our tolerance to carbon dioxide building in our system, we become more resilient to stress. Simply, simple statement like that. I'll go into it in another detail, and I think episode 1 I went into it, breath versus meditation. I go into that a bit more context. But my practice includes, so this is what it looks like. I will hold my breath in, and then I'll walk for a period of steps. And I'll start breathing again when it comes too uncomfortable or I sense a mild discomfort. My diaphragm is contracting. I've reached my limit. My body's saying it's time to breathe. Now, I don't push it. It's not a bravado thing. It's just listening to my body. And so that could be 30 steps. That could be 80 steps. I'm not going to tell you how many steps. It's not about how many steps you need to achieve. It's for you, specifically for you. And what do I feel from that? So 1, it helps, again, clear my energy centers, that breathing, because when I've reached 30 steps or 80 steps, I then have 10 recovery breaths, all through my nose. And so the first few are quite fast, quite, like that. I'm a bit blocked up today. But they're quite fast. And the point of that is I'm recovering, and I slow my breath down as I get towards the 10th breath. But also it helps clear those energy centers. It's just a really incredible practice for that. I've discovered that, and I feel that in my body. And I'll do probably 5 to 10 sets of that. Then I'm at the beach, and then it's time to go in the sea. I'm very lucky to have the sea at the bottom of my road. You could use a shower, cold shower. But the sea gives me, open water gives me connection to nature, to the elements. Most importantly, to the elements. The cold outside, the wind, the waves, the sea, the pulse of the sea. It's cold water, shower it can serve its purpose, but there's so many different layers to doing it in the sea, to being in the elements. And there are physical benefits to it, of course, but for me, it's an energetic level. It's a surrender practice. I'm letting my body go to the cold, to the elements. I lay there and I float. I'm probably only in, especially when at the coldest time of year, probably only in 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Don't need to be in a very long time. If in a shower, 30 seconds to a minute. But it gives me so much connection to my body. I surrender to the moment. If it's rough and it's the waves, and I have to go duck dive under a wave, I'm surrendering in the water, and I'm not fighting to get to the top. I'm just surrendering, and then I'll pop up. There's so many levels to it that it's probably one of my most profound experiences. But the combination of all this is the powerful thing. And then the last practice that I do on a day-to-day basis is a productivity thing. So I then sit down for work at 10 o'clock in the morning. So all those practices done, I've done the nursery run. 10 a.m. I'm at my desk and I begin my work. And if I'm collecting my daughter in the afternoon, I only have 3 hours of work. And so at the end of each work morning, my period of work, I write down the 3 most important tasks I need to achieve for the next day. Recording an episode, editing an episode, for example, is a task that I do often. And so when I sit down for my day, I open my diary, I know exactly what I'm starting with. And I know exactly what I need to complete to make that day a success. If I complete it all, then I can do some more work. But I know that if I've done it all, the day has worked out well. So they have to be realistic, they have to be measurable. You can't just say, I'm going to go and write a book. I'm going to, whatever, lay it down in different ways. But they're my practices. Wake up early, hydrate, meditate, breath work, yoga and journal, breath practice when I'm walking, active breath practice when I'm walking, and cold water swimming. Those powerfully combine to give me so much clarity, perspective, depth of learning about myself. The surrender in the sea helps me let go of attachments during the day. All of our attachments cause us pain. If we didn't have attachment to things, we wouldn't have any discomfort or pain. And so letting go in the sea is like a death practice to me. It might sound harsh, but I've spoken before on the inspiration I take from Eastern philosophies and how they see death, they prepare for death, and how they believe we need to be as clear as possible at that moment of transition. And so practicing that is important throughout our life. And so for me, cold water and laying on my back and surrendering to the elements is a practice that I do, one of the practices that I do. And so the power of this is combining them all. Like I said, the yoga is not my main exercise. I love to cycle. I love to move my body in different ways, but it's connecting myself to my body. I'll point you back to episode 13 and episode 14 on how to make better decisions. This will give more depth to that. And so they're my 5 or 6 self-care practices that I do on a 99.9% every single day. Don't feel you've got to start with all of them. If this is sounding interesting to you, start with one. If you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe wake up at 6:30 in the morning and enter a breath practice. And then once you've done that for a few weeks, then add in something else. Maybe you could add in 5 minutes of movement, 5 minutes of mobility. And to help you, if you need some help with that, below is a link for you to follow and download your free guide, which is 4 simple steps to self-care. It will show you how to do movement to ease chronic pain. It will show you how to shift into a success mindset. It will show you how to get the best night's sleep you've had in ages. It will give you 3 tips you can input into your nutrition for better health, and a breath practice for you to use to calm your state. Completely free for you to download. Just click the link below. And there's a few bonuses in there as well. So I hope that's given you some light on what I do and why I do them, most importantly. And I think that's one thing to take away from today is, how do you know that something's benefiting you? If you don't and you stop doing it, what changes? And so that's what I do on a day-to-day basis, like I said, 99.9% of the time. So I hope that's given you some perspective. Thank you for listening. As always, if you find this useful, if you keep coming back, please leave a review and a comment. It's going to help more and more people access this content. So thank you again, and have a great week, and see you next week.